Hey guys, this is Ricky G Reviews here, and I'm excited to talk to you about this King Kong vs. Godzilla Blu-ray and movie. Stay tuned. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the film's release and the Blu-ray release itself, some aspects about the Blu-ray that I noticed when I was watching the movie, as well as a review of the movie itself. Alright, so the movie starts with Mr. Taco, the head of Pacific Pharmaceuticals, this company in the movie world, and he's in need of a mascot for his company. He wants to kind of rejuvenate his company. So he thinks of this monster that is rumored to be in this island called Faroe Island, and that's the island where King Kong ends up being. And at first I was kind of confused because I thought it would be Skull Island. And continuity is kind of different here. Mr. Taco sends these two guys to go out and find this monster. So they send them off to this island. That whole island sequence is really cool. You get some like cool native dances, and all the native people there lend itself to some comedy when it comes to these modernized people coming and showing them like music from Japan and stuff. That's really funny. There's also a good fight scene where King Kong finally comes out and he faces a giant octopus, and it's pretty funny. And Godzilla comes into the mix. The submarine accidentally crashes into an iceberg where it turns out Godzilla had been for a while, and he breaks out and he's heading towards Japan. And there's these red berries that play a part in that Faroe Island where King Kong is, and it has like a drowsiness effect. And so the islanders know how to make King Kong calm and how to make him rest. So after he saves the village from the giant octopus, the natives soothe him to sleep with the juice. The Japanese team is able to take him to Japan, to Mr. Taco, but he eventually ends up escaping. So now Godzilla and King Kong are on a collision course in the middle of Japan, and that's the movie. So there's a couple action scenes throughout. It's really funny how it goes down. Godzilla is the more dominant in the beginning, but then you get to see how King Kong is a little bit smarter, and he gets a little boost from electricity and lightning. Apparently he gets stronger when he's hit by lightning and electricity and stuff like that. So it's a really fun movie to watch. The scene that best describes all the fight scenes in the movie is towards the end, where King Kong is kind of knocked down by Godzilla, and so he comes back up with a tree branch in his hand and tries to shove it down Godzilla's throat, and it's just so hilarious, and I just busted out laughing. But you know, with the music and everything, it's still considered intense, and it's always really fun to watch that kind of stuff. I used to watch this movie all the time in VHS when I was a little kid, and I kind of wore it down eventually until I think someone accidentally recorded over it on a VCR. A big chunk of the movie would be missing. It would just be like some fishing tournament or something like that, something really weird, something that no one ever even watched in the house. Really nice to revisit it, and I highly encourage everyone to seek this Blu-ray out. And I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the Blu-ray itself and video quality and stuff like that. King Kong vs. Godzilla was released in August of 1962. And it was produced and distributed by Toho in Japan, but then it was released in June 1963 in the United States, and it was picked up by Universal Studios. Interesting thing about this movie is that it was originally pitched as King Kong versus Frankenstein, but they kind of changed their direction, obviously, and they inserted Godzilla as the main villain for King Kong. And this was meant as a celebration for Toho's 30th anniversary. And it was the first time, interestingly enough, that Godzilla and King Kong were in color on film. This Blu-ray was released in 2014 and a widescreen release, and this was for Godzilla's 60th anniversary. I watched the movie last night, and the grain is kind of heavy throughout, but this movie was notorious for its preservation story or lack thereof. I know that the director Ishiro Honda was trying to do an edit for the final film, and he cut out like 20 something minutes of the movie. A lot of the movie was kind of damaged after that, and it was hard to find. So like, it's very inconsistent throughout. Some parts are perfect, some parts are kind of grainy, but other than that, the color for being a 1960s movie is pretty well defined, especially on the actors. There's some red berries in the movie, and they're pretty big to the plot in regards to where King Kong is from in this. But you get to see the berry juice used in a certain scene, and you get to see how deep the reds are, and it's always, even when I was a little kid, I remember watching it and the red was really well defined. Even in the old film prints on VHS, I used to like really want to eat those berries when I was watching it when I was a kid. And as far as sound goes on the Blu-ray, King Kong and Godzilla's roar very loud. Sound mixing is very pronounced. I had it on a very low volume setting when I was watching the movie, but they were still really loud. I still had to turn down the volume. The best scene that conveys the sound quality in the movie features a giant octopus attacking like a little hut village before King Kong comes out. You hear a lot of slimes and crunchiness, and since they're real life octopus, it looks the most realistic out of any monsters in this movie until King Kong gets a hold of him. I found out that 4 octopuses were used to film that scene. 3 of them were actually let go afterwards, and one of them became the special effects director's dinner that night. Here we have the back of the Blu-ray. Pause it now if you want to read up on that. Something interesting about this release is that it's dubbed in English. I don't think there are any special features in the Blu-ray. And here's the inside of it. Just a regular looking Blu-ray disc. No inserts, no digital code, nothing like that. I wish we did have something like that though. Something to say about this movie is that there's actually no dual endings. It's actually a myth. In the American version, King Kong wins, and in the Japanese version, Godzilla wins. And that's actually not true. There's just some differences in the editing to make the action seem more drastic. In the American version, there's like these real life mudslides and stuff that are inserted into the final earthquake scene that they create. Spoiler alert, these two, they fall into the Pacific Ocean. Only one emerges. King Kong is victorious in the end. And something else about the American edits is that they actually were able to use a lot of different soundtracks from a whole bunch of different movies. Almost completely replaced the soundtrack from the Japanese versions. For example, in the American version, they used different soundtracks from different movies like Bend of the River and Creature from the Black Lagoon, Against All Flags, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. They also inserted different edits. They try to make the movie look like it was a real life newscast. So they hired actor Michael Keith to play the newscaster in these like different sections of the movie, where he appears kind of narrating and telling you what's going on. So you guys definitely pick up this Blu-ray. If it's not on the expensive side or anything like that, you can get it for $10 on Amazon. That's how I got it. It's only 90 minutes. If anything, you can put it on in the background while you're doing something and while you're hanging out.
Batman got on my nerves.